So, Michael, for today's opening, I've got 3 pieces of news to go through with you.
Wow, that's 3 times more than the normal amount of news we have to go through.
Indeed. So, the first bit is that shocking news here. Did you know that studios have come to recognise that having an exclusive theatrical window is the best way to maximise profits instead of releasing everything simultaneously on demand?
Wow, that's crazy. What evidence have they got for this ludicrous claim?
Yeah, also, HBO has changed its name, or the streaming service that HBO offers. It was previously called HBO Max.
Yes.
Now it's just called Max. And apparently, according to Miss Alexander, whoever she is, dropping HBO from the name is cementing that we're not just a home for premium programming, we're the home for anything you want to watch.
Oh, wow. So really appealing to the lowest common denominator there.
Look, to be clear, we also have absolute shit. Yeah.
Don't worry, we've got your slop, little piggies.
Yes, exactly, yes. I think the real reason why they changed it is because they didn't want the HBO brand to be associated with that rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
But anyway, also, big news, Michael. Your Hogwarts letter is here.
Wow.
HBO Max, just Max now. They've got to change that name on their Twitter account. Have ordered the first ever Harry Potter scripted television series, a faithful adaptation of the iconic books. And I
so
don't
it's
know
gonna
why.
be faithful. We were literally saying how are they gonna so now that I don't know why they're committing themselves to it being faithful.
Well, that's the thing. I thought that J.K. Rowling had the final say in everything in those movies. So I don't know what differences they're gonna make, but anyway, the promo. We're gonna play the promo here and see if you notice anything. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. That appears to be the Harry Potter music from the Harry Potter movies.
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, and also the logo is exactly the same as well. It's the promo uses John Williams' theme, the original Hogwarts castle design, and the original logo. And why would you change that? It's just going to be like new actors, I guess. It's just the most pointless, I guess, adaptation of all time, considering one has already been done that was immensely successful, and literally for this new adaptation, they're just reusing the stuff from the old adaptation. So yeah, overall, it's just like the zenith of how awful media is in our modern times in terms of streaming services, movies, TV shows. This is it, a Harry Potter remake.
You know what, Luke? Zenith is a very good word, and it makes you sound very smart.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the release of the movie He Got Game. Now, are we also doing this for some kind of... Oh, actually, I just remembered a joke I was going to do. I was going to be like, we're celebrating a movie, He Has Got Game. I was going to do that, which I know some people might, it might offend the wokies, though, because obviously, I realize that grammar policing can be a little bit politically contentious, so maybe it's a good thing that I didn't actually remember to do it. Now, I do want to ask, are we also doing this for some kind of it's the start of the basketball season, or like March Madness? March is over.
The basketball season, yes. And of course, yes, as you pointed out, March Madness is indeed over. But that would have been a good idea. But of course, we were doing Oscar stuff in March.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I decided we were going to review He Got Game at this particular point is because the NBA playoffs are about to start and will have probably already started by the time this is uploaded. Indeed, last night there was a incredible playing game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. It wasn't incredible, it was quite bad, apparently. And the Lakers came out victorious. These are playing games to get into the playoffs, you see, Michael.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and the playoffs start on Saturday. And the Lakers are in. The Lakers have made the playoffs. Yes, get in there. Yeah, and as a Lakers fan, that's great, but we're up against the Memphis Grizzlies, and that is a very tough test. You know what, Michael? At the end of this review, I'm going to ask you, which team do you think is going to be crowned the NBA champion? And you know what? If you get it right, we'll knock a point off the Rotten Tomatoes thing we do.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting that
Yeah.
one right.
But you can't look at the standings or whatever.
No, yeah. Don't worry. I'm not even gonna familiarize myself with the names of all the different teams.
Okay,
That's
good.
how committed I am to playing fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna back the Lakers. No, I don't think the Lakers are gonna do it, but whatever. Let's get into He Got Game. So, He Got Game is a 1998 American sports drama film written, produced, and directed by Spike Lee, and starring Denzel Washington and Ray Allen. Of course, this movie, it's its 25-year anniversary, start of the NBA playoffs. Good time to do it, and we aren't too far from its 25-year anniversary. Its exact 25-year anniversary.
That's good.
Either, yeah. So, He Got Game, directed by Spike Lee, written by Spike Lee, produced by Spike Lee. Does not star him.
No, it doesn't actually. It doesn't do his little cameo thing.
Do the Right Thing. Yeah, of course. That is the that is the movie. I actually referenced one of the characters because one of the actors was in that movie as well. He's the guy when he's driving Jesus in his car. Yeah, and he was in Do the Right Thing.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think so. Wait, does he play the guy who gets killed? Whatever his name is, Stereo Rahim.
No,
or am I, okay, so
that's not Radio. They look completely different. You racist. God,
you know what? I'm not gonna lie, Luke. I might be a massive racist.
Radio Rahim is the guy from the he reappears in the Spider-Man movies. That's Radio Rahim. This guy's the very light skinned guy. The guy who's so light skinned.
Oh yeah. He's almost kind of so in Do the Right Thing. Does he play one of the Italians or something?
No. He's black. He's the guy with the learning disability.
Oh yeah, Mookie. Like that guy.
Okay.
And he's the guy who holds up the this is Malcolm X.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He has pictures. Yes.
Yes, I do remember this guy, yeah.
I hope I've got this right and I'm not confusing them. But you know what? I'm going to go with it. So the movie stars Denzel Washington, Ray Allen, and Mila Jovovich.
Yes.
Jovovich. The release date was April the 25th, 1998 in New York City, and just 6 days later across the whole United States on May the 1st. So yeah, we're close to its exact 25-year anniversary. And Michael, can you guess what the budget was for He Got Game?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess Denzel Washington commanded a bit of money at this point, but 25 million.
Oh my god. Perfect.
Really? Yay!
Yeah.
Okay.
What a great guess. Yeah, again, it's a nice, round, well, it's not a round number, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's a multiple of 5, which is close to round.
Yeah. 25, yeah, got it, spot on. How about the box? How about the box office?
Well, I mean, I feel like maybe this movie did quite well. I mean, obviously Spike Lee, his movies don't do terribly well. I feel like he was doing quite well around this time. I feel like my memory of Spike Lee is that in the early 2000s he really fell off, but at this point he was still doing pretty well. So I think based on all that, I'm going to assume this film did okay. I don't think it made a huge amount. Maybe it made I'm going to say it made 60 million.
Oh, Michael, you've gone more than double.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Yeah, your guess was more than double because it's actually only 22.
Oh, well, maybe this was the start of his decline then. Maybe this is it. What did it?
Well, this is a good movie.
Oh, yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, but maybe he realized what it is. He was like, oh, God, I made a good movie and it did really badly at the box office. Now I'm going to start making bad movies.
Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised by its box office performance.
Yeah, that's really not. And also, you think Denzel Washington, people like him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Space Jam.
Space Jam.
Do you think maybe this movie lost out because it wasn't Space Jam? Everyone's like, why would I see a movie about basketball that already came out?
There needs to be more Bugs Bunny, Sylvester the Cat. I might think no, Daffy Duck.
Oh yeah, Daffy Duck, yeah.
Yeah, and all of them lot. Yeah, there needs to be more of them. There wasn't, and that's why the movie flopped, unfortunately. But anyway, Michael, tell me, did you like He Got Game?
I did like this movie. I feel like maybe if I was to really stretch myself to make a criticism, it might be that I feel like
it's too black.
Yeah, there's too many black people. That's just a minor thing. I thought it was very woke. But no, what I actually think is I think maybe it could have been. It was quite long, and I feel like I struggle to believe that every single moment of its runtime is necessary. And it's kind of and also I think I would say apart from that though, it is kind of a good movie where stuff happens and there is definitely enough investment in it for it to be enjoyable. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything like that because obviously it is pretty simple, but it's good.
This movie could have been really, really good.
Yeah, I had a thought about how it could have been different, but do you have that thought too?
Well, what do you mean how it could have been different?
Well, okay, so like basically I had like a thought on like what I think could have been like a slightly more impactful conclusion. So basically the film would have been pretty much the same, just a little more impactful conclusion. But since it's a conclusion, I'd rather I'll probably mention it towards the end.
Okay,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I have my theory about how this movie could be changed
I'm
in terms of
interested.
the actual plot. But in terms of what this movie should have done differently, well, what Spike Lee is trying to do here, he's trying to, of course, have this. He's trying to show this very fractured relationship between this father and this son, and then also he's trying to show all the shit that can happen if you're, a young basketball prodigy and all these, colleges are chasing you, or are you going to go to the NBA, etc. Like all the stuff is happening, and you got to be worried about everyone, trying to take a piece of you, and there's so many things going on, and it's a very hectic.
It's the most important decision you'll make in your life, I think, personally.
Yes.
That's just my theory, though.
Yes, it's a very hectic time, and he wants to show like all the possibilities that that can happen because of that. All the situations that Jesus Shuttleworth could find himself in. And that right there, I don't think is that necessary. I think this movie would be a lot better if it just focused on the relationship between Denzel Washington and Ray Allen, the Jesus and Jake Shuttleworth. If they focused on that more and didn't have... There's a lot of scenes, there's some scenes that I think just could be cut or could be just taken out, and you'd have to rewrite some of the movie that aren't to do with the relationship between Jake and his son, Jesus, which, again, I would make some changes to that storyline as well. But just in general... Yeah, it doesn't need to.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, the strongest part of this movie is the relationship, and how those scenes with Ray Allen and Denzel Washington, all of them are really good, really because of Denzel Washington. They're all really good, and if the movie just had more of that and less of the other shit, I think it would be better. And that stops it from being... A couple of things stop it from being like a really, really good movie, but it's still like a good movie. Yeah, we'll get into all of that, but first, Michael, how many nitpicks do you have?
I've actually got one nitpick and one nitpick. Sorry, one nitpick and one litpick.
Okay, I got two nitpicks, so you go first.
Yeah, so this one's like just a bit weird, but did people really say Sony PlayStation back in the day? Because nowadays I don't think anyone would say that. And like I'm almost wondering, is that like a kind of a marketing thing? Like, like a product placement thing?
I thought that as well.
Or in the 90s, did people actually say like, hey, I'm going to... I don't know why I'm giving them this accent because it's not the accent they have, but where, hey, I'm going to play my Sony PlayStation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was... And then my lit pick is, and I was just proud of this, I recognized Rick Fox. Because Rick Fox, of course, is a basketball player, but he's also been an actor. And
Yes.
I know him from, a few things where I've been aware of him acting. And I actually such as the hit comedic YouTube series Jake and Amir. He plays he has a cameo role in that where he plays he plays himself, but the twist is that he's obsessed with chickens.
Okay.
And it's implied as the narrative unfolds that he's in fact married to a chicken and believes himself to be a chicken. In his final appearance, he finds out that chicken nuggets are made from chickens, and then he throws up and declares, "I'm a cannibal!"
Okay.
So yeah, he thinks he's a chicken.
Yeah, so basically he won a three-peat with the Lakers. I thought he got one more, I don't know why. But yeah, he between 2000 and 2002, a three-peat with the Lakers, and of course he was drafted by the Boston Celtics, the Lakers' rivals.
Yeah.
Came to the Lakers and won a three-peat. So
Yeah,
that
it is
proves
interesting.
The Lakers are better than the Celtics.
But yeah, so I was very proud that I saw him, and I was like,
Great, that's
wow, it's
fantastic,
Rick
Michael.
Fox.
Let's
And
move
I
on.
didn't even know him from basketball, which is the most important thing.
So I've got two nitpicks. My first nitpick is Jesus Jesus Shuttlesworth says, "I'm weighing my options." So many times, man. Like, do you not have like another, phrase that could describe that? That isn't "I'm weighing my options." I mean, I get he's just saying it. Maybe that's part of it because like everybody's asking
everyone's
him.
repeating it. Yeah, maybe.
And that's his stock response, but it just got to a stage where it's like come on, man, you've got to say something else. And my other nitpick is that Stephen Marbury did not make it. There's a reference to Stephen Marbury coming out of Coney Island. He was meant to be a star, but he ended up actually being a bust and going to China.
Oh, really?
To play for the Shandong Tigers.
The Shandong Tigers.
I didn't know.
Oh, you just made that up. Okay, I was absolutely willing to believe that was a real Chinese.
No, there's so many jokes on NBA Twitter when like some NBA NBA player has a bad game, and it's like they Photoshop the NBA player into like a Guangzhou like Tigers uniform. Like you'll be playing in China.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. But yeah, Stephen Marbury is a classic case of like a bust. That's what they're called. Some guy who's got a lot of hype and they fail in the NBA and they never live up to that hype. And it's just funny saying, "Hey, you could be the next Stephen Marbury." It's like you don't want to be the next Stephen Marbury. You don't want to be that.
Not even Stephen Marbury wants to be the next Stephen Marbury.
Yeah, no, he had his own shoe, Stephen Marbury. And it's like literally he was the big thing, like he was the next Michael Jordan or whatever. So let's get into the plot now, Michael, of He Got Game. The film revolves around Jake Shuttlesworth, which is a very hard name to say.
Yeah, I don't like that name either. Like when they announced it as like kind of in the big fanfare kind of way they do for like it's introducing Jake Shuttlesworth. It's like I was like that's not a good. He's gonna have to change that, man, if he's gonna.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Jesus.
Wait, why did I say Jake? It's Jesus.
Yes. Well, Jake is his dad, obviously.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. That's why. Oh my god, yeah. Okay, I had a good name moment there. We love a classic Michael name moment that happens on these podcasts every now and then.
Yes, and the thing is, Jesus Shuttlesworth is just a very. I think it's just it's a very memorable name, which I think is good for a movie to have like a memorable name.
Yeah.
For your main character or one of your main characters, I guess. But yeah, in real life, like that is just such an awful name. Like, and they even, I like how how in the movie there's a scene with Jesus being frustrated that that's what he's called.
Yeah.
Of course, it plays into the fact that he's the chosen one or whatever. So Jake Shuttlesworth, father of top-ranked basketball prospect in the country, Jesus. Basically, he is in jail for killing his wife and is released on parole for a week by the state governor to persuade his son to play for the governor's alma mater in exchange for a reduced prison sentence. This movie, obviously he gets out of prison, tries to convince his son or tries to reconnect with his son, basically fails at doing that because of their past. Jesus can't get past the past, understandably.
Yeah, I guess he's not so much of a triple threat. I thought he was supposed to be good at passing.
Yeah, kind of a different word there, but whatever. I think I think that those scenes are the best. Then all the other stuff about this is what it's like if you're a young NBA prospect. Everyone's after you. Everyone wants a piece of you. You got to stay out of trouble, etc. Yeah, that's basically well known. I was wondering actually, that NFL movie that you don't like.
Oh yeah. What's it called? Any Given Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, and that basically went into like all the happenings of an NFL team. Like anything can happen any given Sunday. All this shit that goes on in an NFL franchise, and you didn't find that interesting.
No, I didn't.
Which I thought you might because I find it fairly interesting, even if you're not into sports. I thought you would. But
yeah, I think again that was also a film that was very long.
But this one, I don't think this was as long as Any Given Sunday.
Yeah. Any Given Sunday was like 2 hours and 50 minutes, I think.
Yeah,
I think I remember it was genuinely that long.
Yeah, this is only like 2 hours 15. But yeah, did you all the stuff going on with Jesus in terms of him being
and stuff?
Yeah, him being recruited. Everybody wanting some money from him, giving him cars and stuff. Did you find that interesting? That's what players in the who are high school athletes basically before they make it big. That's what they have to go through.
I found the interpersonal aspect of the friends and family kind of wanting to basically use his success for themselves. And obviously I liked the moment he had with his girlfriend, which obviously does happen towards the end of the film, so I don't know if we want to get into that yet, but that kind of touches on the aspect of everybody wanting a piece for themselves. So I think I liked it insofar as that obviously related to the interpersonal conflict aspect, where it's the fact that when you're in that situation, everybody's gonna act like you kind of owe them something, and you've got to take care of them and all of that pressure. The specifics of the colleges and universities vying for it, I don't really think matter that much. It was a bit like he spends a while at that Rick Fox University, whichever one it is. Big Tech is what it's called, I think. He spent a while at Big Tech University.
It's called Tech U.
Oh, Tech U.
UTech. Again, it's just a very generic name for a college because then they're not actually going to be allowed to use the real college.
Yeah.
Or a real college. So yeah, it's just like you have like Virginia Tech. That's a tech I know. Georgia Tech. You have a technical college in every state.
Yeah.
And that is the technical college in that state, whatever state that is. Also, Big State as well. That's the college.
Yes, Big State University.
Yeah, again, that's just the university in that state, which is the big one. you know.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I mean, obviously, I mean, we all appreciate John Turturro has to have his obligatory appearance in a Spike Lee film,
Oh, we
but
love it. Yeah.
but yeah, like I think kind of they were there for a while, and I think one could very reasonably argue that that wasn't really necessary.
No, yeah, but again, this is Spike Lee trying to show
Yeah.
all the shit that can go down when you're recruiting an athlete. So yeah,
It did make me think a bit about. Have you seen like the South Park thing where Cartman's like, I've never seen the full like episode, but basically it's like implying that university athletes are like slaves, and Cartman
I was
like
going to
shows
talk
up.
about that.
Oh,
later.
okay, that's good.
That plays into the decision that Jesus has to make, because as somebody else pointed out, and I was thinking this, I'm like, well, the choice is obvious. Like, it's obvious what he would do in this situation. You know, where would he go? Well, you know, he wouldn't go to any college. He'd go to the NBA because of his financial situation. But yeah, we'll get to that later. But anyway, Michael. So let's start off from the top. So Jesus Shuttlesworth is the top high school basketball player in the United States and has been pursued by the top college basketball programs in the nation. His father, Jake, is a convicted felon serving time in Attica for accidentally killing his wife 6 years earlier, who's Jesus' mother. Jake is granted a work release by the governor, so that he might persuade his son to sign with big states. If successful, he'll get an early release from prison. So it is a very interesting premise, and you know, you got a nice bit of corruption thrown in there, which I think is the case for a lot of like college basketball programs. You know, there's always corruption with college basketball because again, the athletes don't get paid. So how are you going to? Well, they're not allowed to get paid. So, well, what's the thing that can convince one athlete to go from one school to another? You know, or pick one school. Well, it's money, but you can't give them money. So, you know, there's corruption. There's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get you a house, you know, to live in. You know, this is your accommodation at this university. Oh, it happens to be a mansion. Oh, and we're also gonna hire your dad to be on the basketball staff as well. Giving him a job. Oh yeah, no, this is all perfectly above the board, isn't it? But so corruption happens because of the lack of financial compensation student athletes get. And the thing is, it's maybe a bit unrealistic to like the governor releases your dad from jail to convince you to join his favorite university, but you know, it's not too bad. I think it's in the realm of movie believability, that premise.
Yeah.
What would you say, Michael?
So I don't really know about it, but yeah, like it is one of those things where you know, it feels like probably in reality it, you know, you think maybe it isn't necessary, but I guess like obviously within the logic of, like you kind of just said, if you're at, you know, college or university trying to convince these kids to join, you want to give yourself any edge you can. So maybe within that logic, I mean, it's like, hey, you know, we got his dad in prison, might as well see if throwing his dad into the mix, you know, changes things and makes things better for us. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think it is believable within that context, you know, in the sense of like, if it was like the one thing they were banking on, that wouldn't really make much sense because it seems like, you know, it's kind of dumb.
Well, I'm just talking about...
There's so much else going on that's like, yeah, they might as well go for it, throw the dad into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what I'm talking about is I don't really think something like this would ever happen.
Oh, yeah, in like real life, yeah.
Yeah, it's like just out of bounds. But in terms of like movie premises, like this isn't too unbelievable. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's, obviously in movies, you gotta, you know, if movies tend to be about stuff that's unlikely to happen, otherwise they would be boring. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we are introduced to Jesus Shuttlesworth. Well, not really, just him playing basketball. But anyway, we'll talk about him in a bit. I love the way Spike Lee shoots these basketball scenes, particularly the one at the start. You know, there is a beauty to basketball with all the little movements, you know, the little jabs that you have to do. It's a finesse.
It's very dancey because you got to kind of like avoid the other person in that kind of way. Makes it a lot like dance.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, you're basically dancing out there, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's gay.
No, I think the thing is you do need to be agile. You do need to be quite flexible, and you do need to have quick, sharp movements. Of course, it's a sport where you can use a lot of power, and I guess it depends on the referee you have. But yeah, in general, you know, it is a sport where you can be quite skinny and succeed. Like, you know, kind of like how Jesus is. He's not that big, and of course that's Ray Allen in real life. But yeah, I think that the way, you know, he captures those little movements, in slow motion, and the perfectly executed shooting motion as well. That's a thing of beauty, like a perfectly executed shooting motion that leads to the ball hitting nothing but net. A swish, lovely slow mo shot. When you got the I'm doing the motion right now, like your arm ends up looking like a swan, if you can imagine that, Michael. Like it, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I can, yeah. Like it's almost like it's kind of, dare I say, in the most, it's kind of limp wristed.
You do need to have a very very controlled wrist. Your wrist has to. Yeah, you do have to have a sensitive touch. You got to feel the ball on your fingertips as well.
Yeah,
you got to again. It's art, Michael.
It's all very erotic.
Okay, right. Calm down. I don't know why you have to make this gay. I'm just saying there is a beauty in the game of basketball, especially when it's slowed down, which you don't get in other sports. Like that's not the case with American football, really.
Yeah. Definitely not baseball. Baseball is just like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean, baseball, there's only so much you can slow it down.
Yes, baseball, someone throws, someone hits. Basketball, there's so much more going on. And yeah, I guess you could say, that when the batter swings, it's a cool shot in slow-mo. But yeah, it's
just the one thing, I guess.
It's not as aesthetically pleasing. I think basketball's an aesthetically pleasing sport to capture on film. So Spike Lee does a good job with that. And yeah, in his first moments outside of prison, Jake contacts his daughter, Mary, who's happy to see him. When Jesus returns home from school, he refuses to look his father in the eye and tells his sister to get rid of the stranger in their living room. This is a really good scene. Like I think all the scenes are good. Again, I think Denzel does a really great job. Well, you agree, right, with that?
Yeah. I do. I think that he's a really good actor. I wasn't sure. I mean, I wonder what you think. I didn't know that I completely thought that, like, that Jesus was like a great actor. There was nothing like specifically about it, but I don't know, and it wasn't like a big problem, but I was like, I'm not sure if I like think this guy's like the best actor ever, but I don't know if that's just me,
No, it's interesting you say that, because the actor that plays him, Ray Allen, is not actually an actor. He's a basketball player.
Yeah, that would make because I was thinking to myself, like, I don't.
So
really,
you didn't know that?
I kind of like, I guess I suspected it, but I didn't really know. So yeah, I like suspected maybe like, this guy is not an actual actor.
He's not just a basketball. He's an NBA Hall of Famer. One of the best 3-point shooters in NBA history.
Oh wow!
Yeah. He held the record for most NBA 3-pointers until Steph Curry beat him like a year or so ago and knocked him off number one spot. So yeah, that's Ray Allen. It was like in the 1996 NBA draft. That's when he was drafted. So played in the NBA. Played for the Milwaukee Bucks at first, and was a very good player. And the Bucks should have got to the finals in 2001, but were kind of cheated. I remember that in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then he joined the Boston Celtics and actually beat the Lakers in the finals in 2008, and then lost in the finals to them in 2010 to the Lakers. So yeah, he's a what?
I don't know. I guess I was just saying, oh dear, because he lost. That's it. Just oh dear.
Well, he lost. So basically, he is a very famous basketball player, essentially. And yeah, it's interesting. I was going to talk about this, but you think he did an okay job? That's the thing.
Like, like that's the thing. Like, having said that, the fact that like in the back, like there were a few moments, and again, it's one of those things with acting where like usually there's never like I guess it wasn't so bad that there was like a standout moment, which is I guess like quite kind of a good thing. But yeah, there were a few moments where I don't know, just like the line delivery. I just had that sense of like this is a guy reciting a script rather than like a character saying what he actually feels.
There was this one moment where he gets mad with his sister, where he grabs her, and it's like, okay, that's that's very unnatural, and I think Spike Lee should have done a better job, to be honest, with that as well, directing that. But yeah, like you can tell there are some line deliveries where it's like, okay, yeah, he's just reading off a script. Most of the time, though, it was fine. But yeah, let's talk about this because, of course, it's interesting, a professional basketball player being cast in this role rather than an actor. So for the role, Spike Lee drew up a list of every NBA player who could pass for a high school senior. Kobe Bryant was the original choice to portray Jesus, but after, I remember this, well, I don't know because I wasn't following basketball then, but after shooting several air balls that resulted in a brutal playoff loss to the Utah Jazz in the 1997 playoffs, that was Kobe's rookie year. He planned, Kobe, an extensive workout plan that would help maintain his strength throughout the duration of the longer NBA season. So yeah, he was a kid. He get to the playoffs, the end of the season, didn't have the strength, and airballed a bunch of shots. And so that's what he was focusing on. So God damn it, if he didn't airball those shots against,
does airball just mean miss? Is that
it means you hit nothing.
Okay, yeah. So you don't even get a rim shot.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, a rim shot.
Is that what it's called? Is it called a rim shot? Am I right about
No,
that?
it's just like if you hit the rim, you know, you don't even hit the backboard. You know, it's just
Since you mentioned Seth Curry, I do want to say that the one thing I remember.
No, I didn't mention Seth Curry. That's his brother. I mentioned Steph Curry.
Oh my god! So there's two different people. So okay, what I wanted to know though is
you wouldn't. By the way, you wouldn't have heard of Seth Curry. You just said the name Steph wrong, or you mistake. I doubt you've heard.
Steph.
You haven't heard of Seth Curry, right?
No, I don't think I have. Yeah, so Steph Curry, the one thing which I know about him, and I'm sure you know this too, is the time when Fergie sung the national anthem. You know about that, right?
Yes.
When Fergie sung the national anthem, he is laughing. That's what I know him from. That's whenever I think about him, I just remember him laughing.
I hope you're not confusing him with another NBA player, because all the NBA players were laughing, but indeed Steph Curry was laughing. Draymond Green has the funniest reaction. Steph Curry's teammate, where he's
what's his name?
Draymond Green. When he's just like holding in his laugh, I find he has the best reaction. Like he's like got his tongue.
Oh my god, yes, him. Yes, I know him. Yeah.
He's got his tongue up in his like mouth, and he's just like trying to hold himself from just laughing. That's the best reaction.
Yeah, and I was right about so it says here Stephen Curry, which I guess that's probably his name.
Stephen Curry.
Okay,
his actual first name is Wardell Stephen Curry.
But I've now confirmed that he is the guy I was thinking about, so that is good. I'm not racist.
Yes, good stuff. Yes. Well, he's like a very famous player. Like, you know, I told you before, he broke the 3-point record, and you know he's the reigning NBA Finals MVP. You know, won it last year. So it's not surprising you've heard of him, to be honest.
That's god. It seems like, I don't know. For me, I always feel like it's kind of like, having said that, I also find it very convenient that the people I've heard of are the really good people. That is good. That makes me happy. I mean, I know it does make sense, but I don't know.
Yes. The greatest shooter in NBA history, Stephen Curry, had the greatest ever season in professional sports, in my opinion, in the 2015-16 season. But enough about him.
Yeah. I think they should have had a cameo in this from. Remember that guy with the Larry Bird shirt in Do the Right Thing?
Okay.
I think I should have had a cameo from that guy.
I explained to you the context of that because
the
Boston Celtics, they were the white team of America. Because Larry Bird was white. Yeah. Anyway, the gentrification in New York and all that good stuff. So anyway, let's back to Kobe Bryant. So he wasn't available, Kobe Bryant. Which, damn it, I would love to see Kobe in this role, because he did actually win an Oscar. Remember Kobe, for his short film I Love Basketball back in 2017. If you remember that. No, you don't remember that.
But didn't he also die? Yes, he did. Good.
Yes,
I'm glad I wasn't confusing him with because he died in a helicopter crash. That's crazy.
Yes, he did, unfortunately. Yes, with his daughter, which was. But
he also
sad.
Was. I think he had credible accusations of sexual assault against him.
How did you know that?
I think it's because there's like a Family Guy thing where.
Yeah. No, that was there was an incident in 2004 in Denver, which basically was the subject of a lot of scrutiny. Which Kobe eventually bounced back from. In terms of his perception amongst the public.
Well, that's the most important thing.
Yes.
That his perception was not affected too badly.
That's the thing. I remember he wanted, because if you know who Kobe Bryant is, he did not want to settle because he thought, he was convinced that he was innocent. But his people told him, you have to settle because we can't drag this on because it's damaging to you. But he didn't want to lose the case. And he thought it's admitting guilt if he settles. So it was this whole massive thing that dragged on, it could have gone away a lot quicker. I think if he paid some money to the girl he allegedly assaulted. But the thing is, it was only a one-time thing. So as a fan of Kobe Bryant, that's what I keep telling myself. Hey, it's not like he's not a guy who did it over and over again. It happened once, and he thought he was really innocent. So. But anyway, back to the fact that Kobe Bryant couldn't play or couldn't perform in this movie. I think he would have been great. I honestly think he would have smashed it, because he's the kind of guy he's a very stern guy, and he's very intense. And I think the role demanded this character. Jesus was pissed off with his father. I think he'd do that very well. But anyway, so Lee also found Tracy McGrady too reserved. I was not impressed by Allen Iverson's performance. No, I can't imagine Allen Iverson would be good. And yeah, Tracy McGrady, T-Mac being reserved, that makes sense. Kevin Garnett and Stephen Marbury wanted a guarantee that one or the other would be offered the part. Travis Best, Walter McCarthy, and Rick Fox also auditioned, and Lee cast them in supporting roles. Lee approached Allen during the halftime of a Bucks-Knicks game, ultimately offering him the role of Jesus. Allen had never acted before, and he trained with an acting coach for 8 weeks prior to filming. I don't know how much worse he would have been if he didn't do those acting classes, but it made the movie passable, or made his acting passable, And I think that's all that was needed to happen, right?
I think I've said before, like, sometimes with the bad acting, like, there's an aspect of, as long as you can believe, like, even if somebody kind of seems to be behaving a bit weird, there are people who behave a bit weird. So, like, on some level, it's like, that gives a little bit of leeway where you can be like, hey, maybe the character actually is just kind of a bit awkward. And I don't think that excuses all of it, and I think there are moments where it really does kind of break the spell. But, that can at least maybe, go some of the distance in terms of making it more kind of passable.
Yes. So this is the part of the review when we get into the dynamics concerning the decision that Jesus has to make. So he has to choose a college scholarship by this deadline, or he can go and play in the NBA, because you can go and play in the NBA straight out of high school back in those days. Indeed, that is what Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett did. I think.
Have they changed the rules then?
Yes, the rules were changed. LeBron James did it in 2003, Dwight Howard in 2004, and I think around 2005 was when you had to be a minimum age of 19 to enter the NBA.
So you'd still, but in that context, you'd like go to university for like a little while, but only like a year or so.
Yes, yeah, you got it. That's what everybody did. It's called. Do you know what it's called, Michael?
I would like to know.
It's called the one and done.
One and done. Okay.
One and done. The one and done. You go to a college for 1 year, and then you're in the NBA.
It seems like a kind of random rule to invent then, to be honest.
Well, the thing is, it was dressed up as, hey, these kids, they need to go to college, they can't go straight into the NBA and get all this money, it's the best thing for them, when in reality, and this is what I think was the case, because you can see when, obviously you have NBA drafts when teams pick which player they like, and there's an order. The worst team gets the best player, or the best pick, not necessarily the best player. And that was the problem. See, when you're evaluating these players, these NBA scouts, it's like harder to do that when they're in high school, compared to when they're in college. High school, you're playing against other high schools who may have absolutely awful players, but you get them to a higher level of competition. It's easier to see who's good and who isn't.
That's a good point.
And I think the NBA teams were kind of like, we don't know really who to pick. Like these high school players, because there were some that were really good, some that were really bad. And if we get them in college for a year, then we can evaluate.
Filter out the crap.
Filter out the contenders from the pretenders. It's just another year of scouting against better opposition. That's what I think was the reason why they introduced this rule.
See, I heard somebody say the reason why, one of the reasons why, but the main reason why soccer, which I'll call it for the sake of disambiguation, isn't so popular in America, is because Americans are very obsessed with like the value of university and higher education, and football is like the standard with football is that you basically, like, no football player goes to university. Most football players, like, I feel like they barely even finish compulsory education. It's like the standard with football is that like you get noticed as good at a very young age, and then you go to like the youth academies or whatever. It's like basically from like the age of like 14 or even younger, it's pretty much decided, your main focus is going to be football. And because in America, it's like, they'd be like, no, I can't do that. I gotta go to college and get my scholarship. It's like that they just can't do football because football takes too much. You gotta learn it so young because it's, I don't know, because the standard's high or whatever. That's what I heard.
I think that just the whole system that Americans have, it's like you don't play for your local team. Well, that I guess that has changed somewhat with basketball. But it's like you play for your high school, and
it's all centered around education, like from the kind of ground up.
It is all centered around your education, and you don't like play for an academy really. And the thing is, like MLS sides, there's like, I think how big America is. There's like 28 MLS sides where there's academies. And so, I guess you play, it's the way to make it as a professional soccer player would be, the next step up if you're American would be to go, to college, unless you're really, really good. That would be the next step. But yeah, I think in general, the lack of the academy system hurts American soccer, I guess, and it probably prevents their other athletes from being as good as they could be if they were in a dedicated academy from the get-go. Let's get back to Jesus. So the situation with Jesus is he is broke, and there've of course been rumours of corruption concerning colleges paying athletes to come to their program, which is illegal. The most they can officially offer is a scholarship, a free education. And again, it's a fucked up system, which is what you were referring to with the South Park episode.
Yes.
With Cartman, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, when these student athletes, they don't get paid, but they bring in so much value to the university, but they're not allowed to get paid. And many of them, there's stories of them like going hungry and stuff because they can't afford food or whatever, and they're just exploited. And again, it has the history of this is there's a racial dynamic to it as well. But anyway, all that stuff about what people are offering you concerning what college you're going to, like illegal payments under the table, are we going to get you a nice new car, etc. It doesn't really make a lot of sense when the NBA is right there. Like, Jesus would be getting paid millions of dollars if he entered the NBA draft, and that is a choice. And this is the thing, it seems to me so obvious that that's the choice he'd take. And this is from Bill Simmons, who's a sports person, a sports commentator, even though he's horrendously biased towards the Boston Celtics. His review for ESPN...
Oh, sounds like a racist to me.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? He has said some racially... I'll just tell you one of the best things he's ever said, because it's just so funny. So there's an NBA team called the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's the team who the Lakers are playing. And he said whenever, like, you can, around the Memphis arena, when things aren't going their way, you can feel some tension in the air. And do you know why in Memphis you can feel some tension in the air, Michael?
Is it because Memphis is a very racist place because it's in the South?
Well, no, it's because that is where Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's funny.
He linked it back. I know, it's very funny. And also he said some stuff about LeBron James not having a father. That's why he made some bad decisions in his life.
Okay. Has he ever told anybody to just shut up and dribble? Because I think these people really need to be told that.
He is kind of against what he calls player empowerment, but he hasn't said anything that specific or racist. But yeah, he's a Boston Celtics fan. But anyway, he pointed out the factual flaws in the story. Coaches aren't allowed to discuss potential recruits until after the signing period. Come on, Spike. And while they're at it, players aren't allowed to visit a college 1 week before signing the deadline. Jesus couldn't live alone with his sister without both of them being thrown in a foster home. Well, I'm not sure about that one because maybe it's clear like they're kind of living with their uncle and aunt, but whatever. And he argued there's no way in hell that Jesus wouldn't have just turned pro if he was that good and that broke. So the last point is crucial. He's going to be a top pick. He's like the best in the nation. He's like, everybody wants him. Why would you go to college when you are living in poverty? Which seems to be the case. You know? Like, he would enter the NBA. And that is the big flaw. Like, there's an argument that his mother wanted him to go to college. But, with the financial situation they're in, it's like, yeah, you'd go. That's why, so many players went from high school in that era. Kevin Garnett started in 1995.
I bet Mr. What's-his-face, Ray Allen, probably also. I bet he didn't go to college. Oh, wait, he did, actually. I just had it up here. Okay, never mind. So there we go. There's the exception. Damn it.
Yes, he did. Well, I think it was only the very best. And to be fair, Ray Allen was very good. But it was like the best of the best. If you were this good, like the next Michael Jordan, essentially, that's what he's being touted as. Well, no one actually says that, but that is clearly what people would be thinking. You just go straight to the NBA. A college could offer you like a new car or like a $10,000 under the table. It's like, just take the fucking $6 million you're going to get by signing an NBA contract. But yeah, essentially that is it's a big flaw, Michael, is my point. So you see how that's the case?
Yeah. This is I would agree. Like, I mean, obviously I didn't know that, but the fact that this decision realistically wouldn't be a decision is obviously a significant point. And you know what? I mean, it relates to my change to the plan, which my change to how the story could have gone. So maybe I'll just mention that now, seeing as I've been sat on it. Okay. But to be fair, my thought also relates to the relationship between him and his son. Which is, I was thinking like, if he needs like a redemptive moment. And for me, it seemed obvious that the solution would be, because when you think about it, it's kind of intrinsically, like something you can't ignore, is it's intrinsically selfish for Denzel Washington to basically be trying to convince his son to do something when the main incentive for him convincing his son to do this thing is that he gets let out of prison. And now, of course, it seems even more intrinsically selfish when finding out that actually the option he's taking is not only not the best option, but so not the best option that it's even ridiculous he's considering doing the option that Denzel Washington's trying to get him to do. And I was thinking what would be really powerful is if, at the end of the film, he actually told his son to do something else. Like, whether, so obviously, I mean, I didn't know that going to the NBA was the best option, but let's say the NBA, so he tells his son to go into the NBA, and he's like, I don't care whether or not I go to prison. I want you to do what's the best thing for you to do, which is go into the NBA. So he basically gives up his chance of getting out of prison for the benefit of his son.
That this time there was some stigma when high school players went to the NBA, because there was this narrative, oh, this is too much too soon,
too much too young.
Yeah, throughout the history of basketball, players have been going to college, so all of a sudden you're not doing that. It's like, well, you should take that step because it's an education and whatever. If things don't work out, hey, at least you've got a college degree. And so there was this inherent stigma with players, again, and I think it was kind of racialized as well. That narrative, the fact that these young black players, they don't know what they're doing, they're just chasing the money, etc., and they should be thinking more intelligently about their life, even though it's like the intelligent thing to do is to get the money, because the issue is, hey, if you have a career-ending injury, then you're kind of fucked. In college, you're leaving so many millions on the table, which is why, again, athletes who are in college, they go straight to the NBA once they've done their one and done year, because what happens if they get injured, Michael?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then they're screwed. I mean, to be fair though, obviously you and I both went to a university, and we're rolling in it. I mean, whereas I think we can all agree that we've got a better deal than anything we could have got at the NBA.
Yes, well, there was some inherent stigma attached to the fact that you should go straight from, like, Denzel Washington, his character could make the case, hey, you should go to college and not the NBA, and it wouldn't be viewed as him trying to manipulate his son into making the worst decision.
Yeah. But I mean, so I suppose in that context, what I'd say is, I mean, obviously still my argument could apply, because they really don't, like, it's actually very difficult to, like, they almost don't make any effort. I say they, Spike Lee, I guess, this singular person, doesn't really make any effort at all to make it be like that Denzel Washington is doing this for the sake of his son. Which is like, I feel like that could have made it a bit more interesting if, for some reason, there was a sense in which we saw clearly.
Well, I was going to get onto that later.
Okay, I mean, it does make sense to talk into.
In terms of Denzel Washington, what he should do, once he gets the chance to reconnect with his son. But so Jesus is tempted with offers of cash and women on recruiting visits to big-time basketball programs. Again, it's so funny, like, big-time basketball programs like Tech U are offering him cash. He's been offered millions in the NBA. It's so dumb. Yeah. Anyway, he also considers entering the NBA draft in order to play professionally sooner, and immediately lift himself and his sister out of poverty. Yes, which is what he would do in this situation, because he's going to be a top pick. That's the key. Like, if he wasn't that good, if he was highly talented but not like the best, maybe he would go to college, because if you do better, then you can go up higher in the draft. But it sounds like he's already going to be a top pick. Like, he's got nothing to gain from just waiting. There's nothing to gain, so you just go right away. That guy from Do the Right Thing we talked about earlier, had the learning disability, went around with the pictures. Michael. No, yes. What is it? Yeah,
Malcolm and Martin.
Yeah, Malcolm. My bad. Yes. He decided to tell Jesus, there's so many pitfalls with him being a superstar, in that car ride. The thing is, Jesus would know this by now. Like, that's the thing. I found that weird when he's telling him all the stuff that could happen, between here and now. But between when he gets to the NBA, or maybe once he's in the NBA as well. It's like, Jesus has nearly made it out. Like, he's a senior. Like, again, what did that guy say at Tech U? Jesus had been scouted since he was in middle school, or junior high, I think that was it, or whatever. So that's when he's like 13, 12 years old or whatever. He's almost at the finish line. Like, he would know all the stuff he's telling him, which, again, Spike Lee just wants to illustrate all the issues that are potential.
And I mean, maybe also the function of that would be to, justify the idea that he shouldn't go into the NBA and he should be at university. Because it's like, there's all these problems, so you need to, like, educate yourself so that you don't accidentally have sex with a woman, and then you'll get AIDS and die.
But the thing is, like, NBA players, there's no scandals of NBA players like doing drugs and shit. Like that is, well, not doing drugs like crack cocaine, at least I don't think. Like, once they get to the NBA players, like, they don't have those kind of scandals. Yes, they have scandals with women and stuff, But yeah, like that's the Lamar Odom, I guess, would be the exception. And that's the thing. Like he's definitely talking about like when you're in like the projects or whatever, this could happen if you're a young basketball player. I think LeBron James has talked about that, how growing up because he grew up in poverty, like many times he could if he went down quote unquote a different path, he wouldn't have made it. But like this guy is almost at the finish line. Like he knows all of that shit. But yeah, I do. The thing is, it's not subtle either, is it?
No,
he's
it's
just
very like he just lists it all off, and it's like a very random character who just kind of.
But it's entertaining, I will say.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I will say like this film, like I was kind of like thinking to myself like this film, like obviously it's about like a relationship between like a father and a son, and I was thinking like this film could easily be like a wholesome, like family friendly film with the aspect of like, hey, it's about a father and a son connecting, but then like goodness me is like the sex kind of gratuitous and unnecessary. Like it's one of those things like occasionally like because obviously as like a grown adult I don't really get fazed too much by like sexual content, but every now and then I'll think like when I think about
Not
like what
much.
a film is for, and I think this could be like a fun family film about father and son bonding, and it's just like tits in your face.
No, I don't think it could be because like he's fucking killed his mother. Like there's an inherent darkness to that, which I think
actually, this is something I wanted to say, which I didn't say at the beginning. But do you remember when we spoke about Shawshank Redemption, and I said, it would have been better if he did kill his wife, because then it would add like more moral complexity to it and emotional complexity. I finally got that with this film. Finally, I get my film about a guy in prison getting an opportunity to get out, and he murdered his wife.
No, Shawshank Redemption, you have to root for him so they can not. It's not morally complex. The film does that film does not want to test you at all.
No, yeah.
Anyway, so there is this scene with with an agent that Jesus, of course, has a conversation with at his house. It's not that entertaining and it's not that subtle either. That's the thing. I'll say that the guy in the car explaining all the issues with growing up in the projects as a basketball prodigy, or just as a young black male, I guess, all the things that could happen, and adding to that the basketball and you being a superstar, all of that stuff. I think it's done in an entertaining way. This fucking Italian guy, this agent, it's just really bad. Like they should have just cut this scene, absolutely cut it, because the actor that is hired to play the slimy agent is really slimy as well.
Yeah,
and he's just like the ultimate stereotype, and that's the thing, he isn't slick at all. He just like shouts at Ray Allen. Like he's not very charismatic. I just think this whole scene is just unnecessary, or you could have done it a lot better. And again, it distracts from the heart of the story, which is Jake and his son Jesus and their relationship.
I would agree. Actually, that could be cut. That's a good point.
There's a significant period in this movie when they just don't talk to each other. So yeah, you agree with me on that?
Yeah. That is a good example of a scene like that, where I was kind of like, what is the point in this dude?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it does relate to his girlfriend, and like I said, I find like some of what his girlfriend says kind of interesting, and her whole kind of like shtick, which relates to the whole like everyone wants to get a piece of the pie. But yeah, I don't think you need like this massive scene about it.
No, yeah. So the flashbacks illustrate the younger Jesus' grueling basketball training under his father, and the night an argument between Jake and Jesus escalated into violence, resulting in Jake accidentally killing Jesus' mother after she intervened. So this is a really good intense scene, and I think it pays off well. It's good to introduce the scene later on because you're wondering like what happened, how it happened, and you're wondering about why their relationship is so like frosty or whatever. And then you get the scene which kind of does pay it all off, and again, Denzel Washington is really good.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of obviously it's really funny that we watched this film after recently watching King Richard. Seeing as neither of us mentioned that yet, but obviously you got that thing of like the dad pushing the son too hard. I mean, it's quite a common
if
thing.
Denzel Washington's character Jake Shuttlesworth just had a really goofy voice, it would have been fine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. It would have all been okay.
Yeah, that would have made it better. But yeah, I mean, the thing is obviously, I agree. I think like you could say it's quite an obvious thing to go for, like the kind of the pushy parent. But obviously, I mean, if you need a reason for them to, like a reason to show why there would be some resentment there. Obviously, I mean, apart from the mum thing, then it's a perfectly reasonable thing to kind of start with or show.
Yeah. No, I think it is, and again, that's the whole basis of why their relationship is like it is. So yeah, throughout the movie, Jake tries to persuade Jesus to attend Big State with no success. Eventually, he divulges the deal set up by the governor, but Jesus appears unsympathetic to his father's situation. I think so. This is what I would, and this is me rewriting this movie. I think that this would have been better. So I think initially Jake should try to convince him without divulging his angle. I'm going to get let out, and just try and get him to sign the letter of intent, or not show him the letter at first because obviously then it's too obvious. But Basically, like, oh, this guy, he still doesn't forgive me. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to try and, get him to sign this letter and get him to commit to big state. And then, because clearly this relationship isn't going to be patched up despite my best efforts. And then just eventually, over the course of the movie, as he just tries and spends more time with his son, he eventually realizes that he just wants to have a good time with him, like while he's out for this week, out of prison. He's thinking, should I show him this letter of intent because we have a better relationship? And then he's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to like ruin this. And so he's like, I just spent a week with my son. That's important to me. And he kind of forgives him. Maybe he doesn't. It's like, it's a bit more complicated. It's a bit more in the grey now than black and white. But then, the parole officers right at the end, like, they force him to give the contract to Jesus. They like drive him back to his house and like, hey, give him this because that's what you were put here for. And and then Jesus of course reacts annoyed. And the fact it was like, oh, is all this, all of this shit the past week, was it just for this? And his dad's like, no, it wasn't. I was like, I was forced to do that or whatever. And so Jesus doesn't really believe him because the relationship isn't fully patched up yet, and he's kind of pissed. And so and then they play that game at the end, because I like the fact that they played the game of basketball at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
and I think they can do that. And I would like to see in that scene just how aggressive Denzel Washington was to his kid in that flashback scene.
Yeah,
I would like it if Jesus was as aggressive. And,
I was kind of thinking that, like, switching the roles, because you don't really get that aspect.
Yeah, pushing him and shoving him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I really do like that idea of that he, like, decides to just abandon, be like, hey, I'm not even going to try this anymore. Like, if I'm only out for a week, I might as well make the most of spending time with my son. Yeah, I think that's a good shout as well. Mm-hmm. Like, basically, that aspect of, because the one thing that is missing is, to be honest, like, I mean, I'm trying to think about the movie, like, holistically, and I'm just thinking, like, in a way, like, there's actually not that much to him kind of reconciling with his son. Certainly, like, what you're saying there would be the most substantial example of that in the film. And yeah, I'm really kind of like trying to think to myself, like, I mean, he spends more time with this random Mila Jokovic
we're gonna get to that
prostitute than he does, like, trying to reconcile with his son, basically.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think he does spend time trying to reconcile with his son, but the issue is he still has the motivation of the reason why I'm doing this is because of this letter. That seems to be like his primary motivation. Maybe it's not, but that's what's implied by the fact that, of course, he still, is asking him, and still when they have that scene like on the pier, he tells him about it. And it's like that right there is like, if he just kind of had that initial motivation and that filtered away, that would be better, because it shows like he cares more about his son. And I still think like he just cares that it's just like poor writing more than anything else. Like this could have been written better. But yeah, again, the scenes are still good, they're still impactful. But yeah, the overall storyline could have been better, could have gone in a better direction. So the scenes with Lala and Jesus at the end fighting. You said you liked this scene, Michael.
Yes, I think like what I liked about it is that kind of point of like because I think like it was interesting because the whole time you're kind of thinking, oh yeah, she's just like kind of, these as they say, as my brothers say, these hoes ain't loyal. That kind of like mentality of like, oh, this my brothers. It means like the rappers they got nowadays.
Yeah, but there was a specific rapper who said that. Who was that?
I think it was it was Chris Brown.
Oh yeah, what did he do again? Yeah.
I think he fought back against hoes, which is good. Well done him. He took a stand. But yeah, like that kind of aspect of like, oh man, women, they be lying, they be going behind your back, and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you're kind of primed to accept that narrative of her just being like a kind of duplicitous harlot. But then, and I don't know to what extent this was like complete, like I don't know to what extent we were supposed to sympathize with her. But when she's basically saying, hey, actually, like most NBA players, they get rich and then they like leave their girlfriends at the time for a hotter, younger model. What they called?
The baby mamas.
They're baby mamas. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like there's like a joke in it's like in The Simpsons where they go to like a thing and it's like they're sat with the play. They're like, oh, we're going to be sat with the players' wives, and then they're like sat right in like these terrible seats, and they're like, oh, you'd think the players' wives have better seats, and they're like, actually, we're the players' first wives, and then they're all like really ugly. Anyway, but yeah, basically like she makes that point of like, you know, you're gonna be a dickhead when you succeed in the NBA. You're gonna like cheat on me maybe, or just like flat out leave me for somebody else. So actually, can you blame me for trying to get something out of it right now? And I like that moment because it was like, I was like, actually, you know what? She's got a good point. And I kind of like, I like the way, you know, when a film kind of challenges you, puts you through a bit of a kind of 180 situation where you're like, I mean, you know, again, like obviously we can imagine a world where it'd be nice if everybody was like loyal and friendly and, you know, had everyone's best interest at heart. But it's like, considering we don't live in that world, you know, you're thinking, oh man, she's like awful. But then you're like, nah, she's got a good point.
I don't know, it just kind of feels very unnatural, to be honest, that scene. And I do
think... Yeah, I could maybe agree, actually, like the way it's
also,
kind of...
I'm not really on her side. I'm more on... Because, like, she basically, like, betrayed him, basically. And he did not do anything... He did not wrong her in any way.
Yeah, but he would, because you know what men are like.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's the implication. But, like, up until that... Like, that's the thing. He had this fucking threesome at Tech U. And up until then, I don't think that it was implied he cheated on her. So I think basically she's gone behind her back. And it's like, again, it's meant that Spike Lee's like, we want to include the whole experience of, you know, being this high school athlete who's, you know, poverty, you know, going professional, you know, all the people who want a piece of you, all the, you know, all the tribulations that you're going to have to put up with. And this is one of them, like your girlfriend, like, you know, wanting to get a piece of that pie, essentially, and, you know, maybe betraying you. But I think that's rather dramatic. And again, like I'm the way things go down, I'm not really on her side. So let's get on to the story, the Mila Jovovich story. So intertwined with the story of the Shuttleworth family is the subplot of Dakota Barnes, a prostitute who stays in their room next to Jake in a rundown hotel. Dakota is being abused by her pimp, Sweetness, which is a great name for a pimp.
Yes.
Which Jake overhears. Throughout the film, Jake helps Dakota by cleaning her wounds and giving her some of his per diem money, and the two develop a romantic relationship. In one of the final scenes, Dakota rides a Greyhound away from New York. I don't know why this really is in here, this subplot.
Do you think Spike Lee was banging her? Like, is this like one of those, like, you know, like Willie Nelson, whatever she's called in Indiana Jones, where it's just like she's just in there so the director can get his rocks off?
I don't think so. I would be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, I feel like Spike Lee has too much. I feel like Spike Lee, he's too weird and has too much integrity. That's probably just including random women in his films for much more wholesome reasons.
Yeah, I guess it's meant to show like the humanity of Jake as well. And maybe Denzel Washington wasn't, you know, he wouldn't agree to be in this movie unless they beefed up his role and gave him something else to do. And it's like this is part of it. He's like being with this girl, helping this girl. So it's like, hey, at least he got out of jail and did some good, you know?
Yeah. What else is she even in apart from the Resident Evil films? It's like, I'm just like, oh, it's that lady from the Resident Evil films.
I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that's a weird subplot. Again, it's not really necessary, but again, it had some purpose and had some decent scenes, so I'm not really too mad. But yeah, it's a bit out of step with the rest of the movie. So Jake challenges Jesus to one last game of one-on-one basketball. If Jake wins, Jesus will sign a letter of intent to play for big state, and if Jesus wins, he can make his own decision. After a competitive start, Jake tires during the course of the game, and Jesus wins. And of course, as Jake is collected for transportation back to Attica, he turns to Jesus and says, "Let me tell you something, son. You get that hatred out of your heart, or you'll end up just another..."
He says a rude word.
"Like your father."
Cancel him.
This is why they got Ray Allen, because Jesus actually looks like an actual basketball player, which is good. Like, but the thing is, there's not that many basketball scenes with him in. I was surprised, but this one, I guess it kind of pays off because you can tell he's clearly very good. I don't know why. Like, sometimes like Denzel Washington's character just lets him like blow by him for a layup. I guess he tires towards the end. Well, I'm talking about this from a basketball like perspective. Like some things I found very realistic. Some things I'm like, well, better defense would be played there. There's this shot where like Denzel pump fakes Ray Allen and then has a shot, and he clearly misses, but he's going to get the rebound because he's closer, and it just cuts to Jesus having the ball. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, I was confused. You know what? I mean, I'm not like a basketball expert, but there were a few moments when I was watching it and I was like a bit confused about the nature of the turnover, because I was thinking like, hold on a minute, like I didn't think it was just like you missed and that meant like, you know, is turnover the right phrase? Like, you know, the other person gets... Yeah. It's like there were a few moments where people missed and I was like, well, hold on a minute, surely he's just going to go recover that. But then,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it depends what rules you're playing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
It's a basketball union versus basketball league.
yeah.
They're basically two different sports.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when I've played 1-on-1, it's not if you have a shot and you miss, you can get the rebound and score.
Yeah.
You don't have to give it up. But yeah, I'm not sure. Sometimes you kind of play the game like that, I guess. But yeah, it's just not as fun, really. But yeah, so again, so I think that basketball scene at the end is good. It's some issues, but you can see how good Ray Allen is.
I feel like if you played it, so anytime you miss, you'd basically be really conservative about shooting, which would be more boring. So, I mean, I know you're supposed to be conservative, but like if you basically if it's like you miss and that's it, your chance is gone. So yeah, I feel like probably it's a bad rule of playing it.
I guess so. I don't know, but whoever misses, they're probably not going to get the rebound anyway. But anyway, yeah. So he got beaten at his own game, didn't Denzel? And I'm like, it's kind of a poetic ending, I guess. The hatred and toxicity that this character had, it came back to bite him. Kind of poetic. And his son never forgot it, and that's what fucked him over. And again, that hatred that he has, that hatred that he had, that this frustration, I guess, with life or whatever, you don't carry that around with you. And I guess he's fine with not being forgiven, but he's like, the most important thing to him in that moment is not that he forgives, or not that his son forgives him, but that his son doesn't have that same mentality. That and I guess that makes sense. So yeah, I'm fine with that ending. It's a solid ending. And Jesus decides to play for Big State, and of course the governor doesn't give Jake the reduction as he didn't sign the letter of intent. And Jake finds freedom by casting away his dreams and his burdens to his son, symbolized by his throwing of an old basketball over the prison wall, where it magically lands on the Big State court where Jesus is practicing alone. Jesus clutches the ball, knowing it is a message of hope from his father. So that's what it says on Wikipedia. And I think, I don't know, it just kind of sums it up nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, that seems like probably the most intuitive interpretation. And yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so there you go, that's what happens at the end. And yeah, I guess, he hopes his son doesn't make the same mistakes that he did. But to be fair, his son is an incredible basketball player, one of the best in the country, so it's kind of hard to mess up as badly as he did.
Yeah, although sometimes sports personalities will beat up their significant others and potentially kill them. Even
if that happens, they don't go to jail.
That's a good point, actually, yeah. What if he kicks a cat?
Kurt Zuma's still playing. So let's conclude. Michael, you go first.
All right. So this film, I think we said from the beginning, it's good. Obviously, I mean, it's well made. The plot is perfectly, basically a situation where, things happen. There's an inciting incident, and then things happen, and in that, most of the time, you've got like a good relationship being developed and explored. You've got interesting characters, good scenes, good dialogue. Acting, can be a little bit variable. I think the big problem is it's all good, but there isn't that moment that really kind of elevates it. And obviously the big thing that's missing, I think, is any kind of substantial growth in his relationship with his son. I mean, obviously it's into that, and obviously we just kind of covered at the end, obviously he kind of has a change in his attitude, but you don't really see his relationship with his son develop very much, which I think is a missed opportunity. And there definitely are things that could have been cut to make this film better. I was agonizing a little bit about what ranking or rating to give it, and I think this film has too many flaws that the highest I can give it is a high 6. I was thinking I might, get it into that 7 territory, but I actually do think, considering what the film is seemingly supposed to be about, and the fact I don't really think it quite reaches that, I think I can't go higher than a high 6. So that's me.
I was going to give it a 7. That's what I said right at the start. It's like, this is a good movie. A couple of things stop it from being very good. One of them, I think, is the storyline with Jake and Jesus. The father and son storyline, it is captivating, but I think there could have been a better story with it. Again, what I outlined, I think, should have happened with, Jake slowly recognizing, hey, he just wants to spend time with his son, forgetting about the letter of intent until right at the end, he's kind of forced to bring it up, rather than what happens where he, tries to get acclimatized with his son and then eventually shows him the letter. Which, again, implies he doesn't really care that much about his son, which I don't think is the case, but it's just, poor writing, essentially. And also, all the stuff with, Jesus is going to agents' houses and, tech tech university, and he's getting the tour and doing all this shit, and all the shit's happening to him, and all the issues, the pitfall. So I would lessen that and make it more about Jake and Jesus, lessen that aspect of the movie, and then I think it could be very, very good. But as it happens, it's only a 7 out of 10. Anyway, Michael, what are we looking at next time?
Next time, we are looking at Finding Nemo. I was going to try and find a way to segue from the two films, but they're quite different. So.
Well, no, it's about a son and his father.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. There we go. We're going from one father-son film to another with Finding Nemo. There we go.
It's right there. They are quite similar, It's like, there's nothing similar between them, actually. Like, the main plot point is it's quite similar.
Although it does, to be fair, actually, no, the mother does die, though, so actually there's another similarity.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm actually quite embarrassed at saying that they're not that related.
That has to happen, otherwise there's no father-son relationship, because then the mother's there, messing that up.
Exactly, yeah. You can't, fathers and sons can't have relationships unless the mum is dead.
Yes,
those
exactly.
are the rules.
Those are the rules. Well, in movies at least. Those are the movie rules. Yes.
Yeah, it's like how you can't go off on a fantasy action adventure unless both your parents are dead. Those are the rules.
Right. So, Michael, I want you to predict who's going to win the NBA title.
Okay. Well, I know that Dylan has the whole thing about Milwaukee Bucks, so I won't steal that. I guess I'll go for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, they're close to East Palestine, right? So maybe they've got those superpowers from the toxic waste. Okay,
the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's who Michael's backing to get to the finals from the East. And you get a point off your Rotten Tomatoes score if you get this right. And from the West.
I guess I'll just go for let's just go for the LA Clippers. Why not? Who cares?
Oh, you bastard. The Clippers. Well, you've selected the Clippers and the Cavaliers. That'll be a fun final. Probably not going to happen. My prediction is going to be the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. Repeat of the 2021 NBA Finals. But anyway, Michael, thank you for joining us. Yeah, see you next week for Finding Nemo. Goodbye.
Goodbye.